So I'm supposed to talk about how the art saved my life, but the reality is what I'm going to talk about is how not having access to the arts almost killed me, okay? So I grew up in a very challenging community. It was a drug-infested community in the 70s and 80s. It was called Elder and Watson, the block where I grew up. Every street corner had a different drug. It was red top on this block, green top on that block, yellow top on this block, and I'm talking about crack. For those of you too young to know about that, they even got creative with the drug names. They called them the President. They even called them Untouchables and other names. Good Times, Goodfellas, all types of names. So I had to grow up in a community where I had to basically survive. And that's what it was all about. It was not about education, it was about survival. In the second grade, I was left back. I was held over in second grade because no one took the time to know that I couldn't read. I was an amazing artist, but I couldn't read. So I was held back in the second grade. And I was exposed to the arts. You know how? Every time one of my friends was killed, there was a mural painted on the walls. And if you're from the Bronx, or if you know about the Bronx, you see those murals on the walls, each one of them has a story. That's how I was exposed to the arts. So I went through elementary school, middle school, a talented artist no one ever knew. Eventually, my reading progressed, and I was able to read, and I was able to educate myself because teachers didn't take the time to know me as a learner. When I got to high school, it got even worse because now you had a bigger school, more children. No one knew I was an artist. The day came when my guidance counselor pulled me in, and she said to me, "You're about to graduate, but I have some bad news for you." She told me I was not going to be ready for college. She told me that if I went into college, I would probably drop out. She told me to go into the military. She said, if you join the military, at least you can make a life for yourself. So at 18, my parents signed me up for the military. And by the age of 19, I was called up to Desert Storm. So I left one war where I was growing up to fight another war. Thank God, the Desert Storm was over by the time they called me up. So I came back to New York from California, and I said, you know what, I'm going to prove that guidance counselor wrong. I wound up earning 4 college degrees, an associate's in science, a bachelor's in psychology, a master's in education, and an advanced degree in administration, all to prove that guidance counselor wrong. Then I went into education because I wanted to make sure that every child that I touch didn't have to go through what I went through. That's me there, 18 years old, in the military. A baby without options in life until I wound up finding myself. Then I thought, 30 years later, everything should be fine. My daughter's ready to go to college. Super talented artist, into fashion, loves fashion, amazing writer. I prepared her to make sure that what happened to me would not happen to her. And do you know that the college she applied for, a state college, the state that I live in, that I put my life on the line for, didn't allow her access. They denied her. This is a state college. I pay taxes. I'm a disabled veteran. And they denied her access. Well, then when I looked at the numbers, because I started to think, maybe I'm flawed. Maybe she's flawed. But when I started to look at the statistics, I realized that Everything was stacked up against her. She had a very slim chance of getting in. And sadly, at this college, children who come from out of the country have a better chance of attending that college than black children. How crazy is that? Here I am paying my taxes, gave my life to this country, and my daughter's denied access to a college? 30 years later, things have not changed. They're still the same. So when do we start to make change? So I said, you know what? I'm going to become an equity warrior. For the rest of my life, I will fight for equity. People who follow me on social media know that I do every morning a morning reflection while I take bus to work. So I said, you know what? It's all about me. I can't change what people do, but I can change what I do. And hopefully by what I do, I will have an impact on what other people do. So I made it all about me. Music equity is me. Art equity is me. Education equity is me. I have to make that change in myself. I have to be vocal. You have no idea how hard it is for me to be here right now. Because at this moment, I'm just honored to be here because I just think about all the people in my life who were killed, who never got to college, who never got to see what it is to be educated. There are two quotes that I always like to share. The first quote that I always talk about is the prison pipeline flows more smoother to prison than it does to college and career readiness. And that's the reality. It is easier for a black man, a black child, to go to prison than it is for them to go to college. How crazy is that? We're in 2019 and we're still talking about this. Are people banking on me not making it to be 80 years old so that I can't talk anymore? Is that what it is? I don't know, but the prison pipeline, I always tell people they should become plumbers. We need to dismantle the pipes that go to prison. That's what we need to become, plumbers, and change that because there's no excuse for that. No one benefits. No one benefits. I always love when somebody comes to my school and they tell me, Mr. Torres, why should I invest in your school? This is not my community. You know why? Because if you don't invest in my school, they're going to be robbing your children. And then all of a sudden, they start writing me checks. You see? Because when you make it real, people understand it. The reality is that it is unfair what is happening in our society, and we need to become the equity warriors to change that. The other quote, if I leave this planet and I have not made it better, I wasted my time. So when it's time for me to leave this planet, and being in the military, I learned about, life and death very early in my life. Mortality became very real to me. I know that my time is limited on this planet. And if I leave this planet and the planet is the same way as when I came here, I wasted my time. If each and every one of us took the time to make this planet better, we can have the impact that we need on this planet. Now, I always tell people, I don't come with just problems. I threw you a lot of stuff at you, and I'm sorry if you feel offended, but the reality is we have to do something. There are 1.1 million children in New York, and this is an example, and the numbers may be off. Okay, 1.1 million children in New York. There are approximately 1,700 schools. If you gave $100,000 to each school, they can create a quality arts program in their building. They can hire a quality arts teacher and maybe fund some extra resources for the school. There are 200,000 businesses in New York. If each business just donated $850 to arts dues to fund the arts programs in the schools, we would be able to do this. And that way, every single school in New York would have equal access to the arts. Then we start to level the playing field. And then those schools that don't need the funding because they have adequate funds, those monies could be shifted to another school. And this same formula could be used to fund arts, sports programs. Okay? Very simple. But the problem is, do they want to solve the problem? Do they really want to find a solution to the problem? I'm at the point in my life where I write my own quotes. Am I a fool to believe that one day I can wake up in a world where inequity and poverty does not exist, where people of all races and culture will live in harmony? Or will I die in a world where some people feel the need to control us at all costs and destroy everything that makes us a humane society? Very important for you to have that connect in your head. Because the reality is this: if you leave here today the same way you came in, then you wasted your time here today. You leave here today, you go back and you look for ways to make things equitable for your communities. Look for ways to make things better in your community. This is the last piece because I'm running out of time, but I want to make sure I hit you with this. I want you to breathe. Let's practice what was said. Just breathe in one time, because I want you to really think about what I'm going to say at this time. Okay? If there was no crime, if crime was eliminated, how many people would lose jobs? How many people would lose money? How many people who invest in prisons would lose money? If everyone was healthy, how many people would lose money? How would the pharmaceutical companies survive? These people making money off of us. Okay? How about if education, sports, and arts programs were equitable for all? How many people would lose those scholarships that they control? There are communities that control scholarships by being able to afford high-level arts and sports programs in their communities. That's how they're gaining access to the colleges and controlling the scholarships. Let's start to open that up for other communities to be able to shine so that we all can rise together. Thank you.